Katz, joined by
Wait,
Rick
now
Curdy.
Eric.
Oh,
Now
good
Eric.
evening. Good evening, everybody. My name is Eric Katz, and I'm your host for Fire Up Wisconsin. I'm joined by my co-host Rick Curdy.
Hey, Dad. Glad to see you again, Eric.
Nice to see you too. And Brett Gardefee.
How's it going?
Good. How about yourself?
I'm doing all right.
And Candy Ebling.
Thanks, Eric. Great to pass off the torch once in a while for you to host it.
Yep, we have a jam-packed show this evening, and I'd like to end since Rick and I are just coming off the baseball show. The first topic of tonight will be: should the Brewers gear up for rebuild, or do they try again with the same team next season? I'll start with Rick.
I will go with the same team. They just missed the playoffs. There's no reason to rebuild. Maybe if they don't do anything next season or something like that, I can see a rebuild. But if you come back this season, they just need some more offense. That's what they need. They need another big bat out there. Joey Gallo, man, I've been saying that Joey Gallo, if he went to a small market, maybe you can get something out of him. I don't know, but they need a little bit more offense. But I think it's too soon to dismantle a team that just missed the playoffs.
Brett.
Yeah, I agree. I agree. I'd give it one more go. Why not? If it doesn't work out, if we get off to a slow start or just fall apart next year, we can always trade away our pieces and rebuild next year. But in the meantime, we might as well give it another shot.
Candy.
I say we're not rebuild yet. We still have some, good core players. I do think we obviously need to increase the bats. I also think we need to one of the things David Stern said when he left was he did not realize how much of an impact trading Hader would have had before he did the trade. So I think they have to be careful because I don't think they want to rebuild the whole team, but I also think that they need to know who their core is and who's gelling together and get that team rallied around each other again. I do think we might need to shore up a little bit on the pitching side too. With Hader gone, the bats died off, but some of the pitching too. And one of the areas I would really like to see, and this isn't just the Brewers, but all of the Wisconsin teams, their training staff. I think a lot of the training staffs, I don't know if it's not that they haven't pushed the guys well enough or they're not conditioned well enough, but in a lot of the different sports, you're hearing about this hamstring or this injury or that injury. And I think some of those injuries could have been avoided had maybe we trained a little bit differently or pushed a little bit differently. That's just my 2 cents, though. Eric, what about you?
I'm not ready for rebuild yet. I don't think we're quite there yet. I think, maybe if it doesn't happen this year, well, we start to think about next year of making that happen. But, again, they were in first place when Josh Hader was traded. I mean, I'm not saying they would have finished in first because, man, the Cardinals have some great bats. I mean, they are I've said this before. They are to hitting or what the Brewers are to pitching. And, they were hanging in first despite, having a very rocky June where they were at one point they only had two real healthy starters in that rotation at one point. And obviously losing Willy Adames for a month didn't help. But I think they need one big bat. And if they can make that happen, that would be just terrific. Because I think if they just get one more bat, I think they'll be able to make some noise. But again, it's really going to depend on because they do have the starting pitching to get it done. But keep in mind though, if they don't get it done, let's just say they're in second place and they're not in the wild card. I really think that they really start to tear it down at the trade deadline if they're not in it. Because right now their bats can either hit home runs or they don't. I mean, I don't think we're going to see the same deal where they rip out a guy a big part of the clubhouse mid-season, and then the team is just deflated for all of the second half where they got a chance to go in there to get into the playoffs because the Phillies were literally about to hand it to them. But they just couldn't get it done. I mean, particularly the bullpen. The bullpen fell flat. It was no longer that bullpen that like in 2021 that was, that's it, game over, or I can hold a lead or keep the game close. And the starting pitching, well, besides Corbin Burns and Brandon Woodruff, obviously the two main suspects, Freddie Peralta was hurt for a lot of the year. And when they tried using him in the game as a reliever, he gave up that home run. He gave up the grand slam against the Marlins to Avisail Garcia, who's up to this point in time looking like the biggest free agent bust in Marlins history. And that just deflated him right then and there. That's when I knew that this team did not have the swagger that they had in 2021. Because something also this year, even before Hader was traded, something felt off about this team. Like something felt completely off. It wasn't that team that had the fight to just come back in any game they pleased and also just snatch wins from the jaws of defeat. It wasn't like that this year. 2021 had that. Even they were a much weaker team offensively last year, and they had Willy Adames, just brought energy and life to that team. I mean, they didn't have Hunter Renfroe for a lot of the year because he was hurt, but something just felt off about him. I don't know what it is.
Eric, do you think part of it was losing Lorenzo Cain? Like he used to have that camaraderie and that big excitement too.
I mean, Lo Cain losing, the Brewers were doing. I mean, the Brewers went through that awful June slump when Lo Cain was on the team, and Lo Cain's contract was up at the end of the year, and Lo Cain his OPS was way below league average. It was like in the 480s, which you can't, and not in Major League Baseball. You just can't. But I don't think Lo Cain had anything to do with it, because to be honest, Lo Cain really wasn't that productive this year. Just because, I mean, that happens. That happens when you get up in age, and nobody picked him up after.
Right, but what I'm saying is maybe, again, like losing Hader, that maybe in the locker room that changed some of the guys' camaraderie, some of that, we don't know how much they all talked and how much he built people up. I mean, I always thought of him as more of a captain, more of a gelling everybody together. Yeah, he made some spectacular plays out in the outfield, but I just kind of felt he was that kind of enthusiastic player that gelled the team together, that maybe that was part of what they were missing as well.
I know the high energy guy like Willy Adames, he was out for like a good month of the year. I mean, it's still amazing. He finished off with 98 RBIs, which is still a great year in and of itself. But I feel like though, trading Hader when they did, being in first place in that division, I mean, I don't think they would have won the World Series. I don't think they have that kind of team, but they might have been able to. I'm not sure if they would have won the Central, but with the way the Phillies were playing later in September, I think they would have had an opportunity to at least take on the Cardinals in the wild card. Not saying they would have won, but judging by what happened with the Cardinals bats in the wild card, I really think that they had. I really think they might have been able to go to the NLDS. Not saying they would have. It would have been a tough deal against the Dodgers, but they would have at least had an opportunity to make some noise in the playoffs had they kept Hader, because Hader was the guy that kept the team together. After the team was left to its own device, the season went to hell. And September, even though they had an opportunity, they underperformed for what they were. I mean, I'm not saying they were this offensive juggernaut team, because at the end of the day, they were home run or bust. But I think what happened was, they just could not. After Hader left, there wasn't that guy who keeps the team together. I guess you could say that falls on Yelich a little bit, because once he is Mr. Big Money on that team. I mean, for better or worse. For right now, I'm looking at it as for worse, because he hasn't been that guy in 2018 and 19 that was slapping the ball to kingdom come. But, which that really does fall on Yelich, though. I have to blame part of it on Yelich, because he is making all that money and should be one of those guys that keeps the clubhouse together. I'm not saying, I don't know if he's capable of doing that right now.
Understand? Yeah.
But yeah, they really need. But right now, this team is just the team kind of lost its soul after Hader left. And, at the end of the day, should it have happened? No. But because, again, these guys are professional ball players and these guys know that they can be moved at the drop of a hat. But I think the timing of it was the shocker, and that's what deflated the team later in the year, despite being in first place, which eventually the Cards took first place and never looked back.
That they did.
Mm-hmm. Anything else about the Brewers, guys?
I think the Hater it messed up their mojo, and I think it was a surprise. I know it's a surprise to me, and even though he didn't pitch good with the Padres, he did later in the playoffs. I think it messed up their mojo. But would they have won the World Series if they kept him? No, because they're not. It's just they're lacking offense. They need a big bat. So if they can get a big bat, I think they can make some noise because the pitching is what carries them.
I think they need a contact bat, to be truthful, because they can't just go home run or bust.
No.
Because right now they strike out a lot, and they have Rowdy Tellez, who's one of the better power hitters in baseball. Unfortunately, he just falls into the trap of first base in the National League's pretty deep right now, and it's going to be hard to make an all-star team with that, particularly if you play in a small market. Because Rowdy Tellez had himself a nice year, and obviously Willy Adames too, but you got to have a guy who can make contact, a guy who can just put the ball in play. The Brewers' biggest issue was put runners in scoring position once again. And had they had that guy to make contact and maybe get a sac fly or whatever, or put the ball in play, who knows? Maybe they would have pulled out some of those games that they were unable to pull out. The year prior, they were pulling out those games all the time. They would get it to like 1-2 runs, open up the gates, bring in Hader, game over.
Yep.
Every time Hader would come out the pen, I would be with my friends and I'd be like, that's it, game over. Because you just knew there is no shot. He only blew in 2021. He only blew one save, and it was on the road.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, they won the Central because of their pitching. And but when it got hurt and they need the bats to step up and do something, particularly when the starting staff went down, is when you lose a couple starters, particularly a guy like Woodruff and Freddie Peralta. Woodruff would be an ace on anybody else's staff. You lose those guys, the offense has to come through, and it didn't. The offense I'm not sure what it did. They had an awful June. And at one point, they had an 8-game losing streak. They really, I don't know. This team has some soul searching to do right now. At the very least. I'm not saying they're going to get shredded tomorrow, but they do have some soul searching to do this offseason, because right now this team has none.
Agree. Okay, Eric, what was your next topic?
Yes, the next topic involves the Bucks. Who in the Eastern Conference is the Bucks' biggest challenger?
I think the easy answer to that would be the Boston Celtics. They started out 11-3, and they still don't even have their defensive anchor in Rob Williams. They're looking mighty scary. The addition of Malcolm Brogdon has added a secondary playmaker that they desperately needed last year in the finals. I also think another good team on that list is the Cleveland Cavaliers. Garland and Mitchell are just as good on offense as advertised. Mobley and Allen backing them up. If they can find a way to shore up their wing depth there, look out. That team's going to be very, very tough to knock out.
Yeah, I agree. I think it'll be the Celtics. I mean, they were in the finals last year. Great team. I mean, they have an interim coach. I mean, they had to deal with all that drama with their head coach. They're still playing great. Tatum's a great player. And to me, the one that will really give Milwaukee a good running would be the Celtics.
Candy?
I agree. The Celtics are tough. I also think Atlanta at times. I think part of the Bucks is we really need to stay healthy. Brooke Lopez is having an awesome year so far. Our couple of losses. I know we still don't have Holiday, and now Holiday they're saying and Giannis both did something with their ankles, and they're not sure how how serious it is yet. They tweaked, but we need a 3-point. We need a. Oh, why can't I think of his name right now? Help me, guys. We need
Grayson
our 3.
Allen,
No, not Grayson. Chris
Connington?
Middleton.
Chris
We need
Middleton.
Middleton back. Like, and we need him to be on point. Like, we need to have the inside. We have the inside game, but now we have to have the outside game. So we kind of complement. I always say, like on the football field, you need to have the running game and the passing game working together, because then you never know which one you have to defend. The same goes for on the on the basketball court. I think you need both to really be very effective. So I think we need to really shore up. As much as I know my husband hates the 3-pointers and all the 3-point shots, he likes the inside game, the old Detroit Pistons, Bad Boys era. I think you need both to set both of them up. And you need to not be ball hogs, which I have noticed that really I don't think the Bucks are, whereas there are some teams where there are ball hogs that like they dribble down the court and then they take their shot. And they think they can do it all themselves. I really think passing the ball around, looking for the open man is what's going to help the Bucks and get them where they need to be. What do you think, Eric?
I think that it's, number one, this is the era we're in. I mean, the 3-point basket's everything. I mean, that's just the way it is. It used to be the postman with the center with Bill Laimbeer, Shaq, and so on. But that's just the era we're in. I mean, that's just how it's become. You can hate on the 3-pointer all you want. It ain't going away. But, I mean, the Bucks play good team basketball. There's no one – the offense isn't built around just one guy. I mean, it's built around multiple guys. I mean, Giannis obviously is the star of the show.
Mm-hmm.
But, it's a big old circus. You have the elephants over here. You have the pony over there. You have the trapeze up there. It's a big old circus. And it's, right now they're not healthy. I mean, that's obvious. The fact that they've been able to they've been this good with while not being healthy is pretty impressive. But it's still early in the year. They're gonna hit some rough patches. I think as far as Giannis goes, Giannis was laughing about in the locker room, so I think he'll be fine. I mean, again, just the NBA season, you get banged up all the time. Guys get rested more often than not now. So really, as long as you have them healthy for the playoffs, that's what matters. The regular season, we all know, doesn't matter. You could be a 1 seed or you can be an 8 seed. You still got a chance to go get the whole thing. I mean, but I think Budenholzer, you can't count him out. I mean, the guy won a ring with the Bucks. He also comes from Greg Popovich's coaching tree, which those guys are prepared for anything. And he, the year that they lost Middleton, they still gave the Celtics a run despite not having Middleton in the Eastern Conference Finals. This team's still built to win, but it would be nice if they got healthy, because Lopez is back to being Brooklyn Nets Lopez, because he was more like, he wasn't the main scoring option with the Bucks. I mean, he just wasn't. You have Giannis right there, but with Middleton being out, I think it kind of opened things up more for the Bucks as an offense, and now they can get Lopez inside, and he also has a nice 3-ball.
I was going to say, Ken, you said the Atlanta Hawks. I have one issue with the Atlanta Hawks.
Mm-hmm.
And this might come as a surprise that I'm about to say this, but my issue with the Atlanta Hawks right now is Trae Young. You look at his counting stats, he's averaging 27 points, 9 assists. That's fantastic. 27 points is great. But if you look at the efficiency behind those 27 points, he's shooting 38% from the field and 30% from 3. And to me, that's just not good enough. If the Atlanta Hawks want to go anywhere in the playoffs, Trae Young's got to bump that efficiency up, because he's the worst defender in the league. That's statistically proven every year, and he doesn't give much effort on that end. So in order to make up for that, he needs to be as efficient as possible, and right now we're just not seeing it. So I think if they want to do anything, Young's got to be better. Like, if you look past the counting stats, he's just got to be way more efficient than he has been.
Well, nobody really plays defense in the NBA anymore, let's be honest. I mean, these guys coming to the league aren't taught to play defense. It's all about the offensive ball.
3-pointers,
Yep.
and it's
as far as the Hawks go, it's really become Trae Young and everyone else. It's just built around Trae Young, and you're not going to win that way. And right now, I gotta go with the Celtics because again, this team like was they gave they certainly gave the Warriors a hard time, and in the Warriors that was the year they could just roll out any lineup they felt like and won, and they didn't even have everybody. So imagine what they're gonna do with everybody healthy now, and. But again, the Warriors, I just can't with Trae Young. I mean, Trae Young, great scorer, but man, when you shut him down, the Hawks are nothing.
Yep.
It's
all or nothing with him, and he just pads his stats, but you look behind those stats, and they're not very good numbers.
I mean, when the Hawks faced the Bucks the first time around in 2021, the Bucks realized they zeroed in on Trae, and they weren't, and then the Hawks weren't getting those shots. But really, it's going to come down to health with the Bucks. I mean, we saw it last year. What happened with Middleton? That team just ran out of gas against the Celtics. In order to beat the Celtics, you got to be 100% healthy because that team is deep. That team is young. That team is energetic. The Bucks are getting up there in age. Eventually, they're going to lose that depth and they're eventually their windows right now, and the windows don't stay open forever.
Yeah, with the whole defense thing, I do think that defense is still being taught. It's still a valuable skill. I do think it's just the rules that are being enforced now. You can hardly touch a guy without a foul being called. So I don't think it's really a defense issue. I think it's more of a rules issue right now. But I mean, even if you're not a good defender, it doesn't take much to get a hand up, to contest, to close out. Try to play the passing lanes. Allen Iverson wasn't a great defender, but at least he tried to play the passing lanes and got a lot of steals. Same with Steph. He's not a great individual defender, but he impacted the game by playing the passing lanes. I think Trae Young could very well do the same. He just doesn't seem to have an interest in doing it.
It's not. I mean, it's no. I mean, yeah, it's a rules issue, but they're not changing those rules. They are not going to change those rules. So it goes all the way back to when they were playing AAU basketball. They don't teach defense. That's the thing. The NBA could care less about defense. They've shown it for years. That's why I think the games have become so unwatchable. And they that's as far as Trae Young goes, yeah, he could probably show a little more pep in his step on defense, but as far as defending a ball, as far as defending him properly, he never learned how. They're just learning now.
I would agree. One of the things I want to ask your opinion, since we are on talking about the Bucks, did you guys hear that they no longer will be wearing the cream jerseys? And do you want to know why? It's called the almighty dollar, because the NBA has told them that they can't wear them because they're too close to the court colors on some teams, that therefore you cannot see the advertising around the court that the teams have. So the Bucks will no longer be wearing the cream jerseys.
No. Shocker has to do with money. I'm just completely shocked by that.
I mean, it's again, it goes back. I mean, this type of stuff is another reason why the NBA has become so awful and uninteresting. It used to be very interesting. It used to be fun.
Adam Silver, he's ruined it. He's a horrible commissioner.
It goes back to before Adam Silver, when things were starting to go downhill.
It's just no defense. Players are just selfish. He rests them all the time. They can't play back-to-back games. They're divas now. They're Harden and Simmons. And you have toxic poison like Kyrie. They're just like, people are so sick of seeing these prima donnas, that make so much money. It's just like you want to throw up.
I wouldn't say Kyrie is toxic. Kyrie's a stupid kind of toxic.
He's poisoned. Everywhere he goes, he wears out his welcome. He wore out his welcome with the Celtics. And he doesn't want to play. He wanted to put in his contract. He didn't want back-to-back games. I mean, how that's ludicrous. He's an idiot.
I know.
And, and Adam Silver he's a doormat. He's a puppet. That's all he is. He just wants to appease these players.
I mean, it's just awful. It's become, I think, the whole Cream City jersey thing. I mean, I get in some cases if they're doing it on a away team's court, I understand that, you should, away team, you wear, that's their deal because their colors are different, which again, I in defense of the NBA, the Bucks should kind of know better there in terms of court colors. But At home, that floor is tan. That floor is tan like you just got back from Daytona Beach.
I know.
That floor is tan.
Where are they all green ones? Remember the all green ones he used to wear? Bring the all green ones back.
They wear the blue. They got the blue ones going now from the '90s, which I suppose that's at least a good compensation prize, I guess. But Cream City, hello, Milwaukee's called the Cream City. I mean, we have some civic pride here, you know.
No, it's all about money.
But again, you know, the advertisement stuff. I mean, how look at your. Hey, you're just begging for money now because you're paying your players too much. That's why you're begging for money. You got
they're
the
all
money
guaranteed
going through
contracts.
The roof.
Yep.
I know. You got these guys making more money. Heck, guys like Kyrie Irving, who are just the biggest waste of space in the NBA, are taking up all that money. He goes ahead and cashes in, and it's like, oh, I'll play when I feel like it.
You're too busy going to strip clubs. That's the problem.
Oh, not just that. Just ask James Harden about that.
Yeah, they all go to strip clubs, or they're all got other things they want to do. And they're I'm sorry to say, a lot of them are just lazy. The game has gotten so lazy, and it's all about padding their stats. There's absolutely no defense. I mean, I miss the days of defense, Rodman and all that. I'm sick of seeing people score 50 points every single year, every single game, because the game has been so watered down. So when I see all these records being passed, and Steph Curry's a great player, but you know, they're all watered down. It's watered down now, these records.
It's just become a pure scoring league. That's what it's become. The guys can just. I'm shocked somebody hasn't started breaking Wilt Chamberlain's records with the amount of scoring that goes on in this league.
I think it's going to be a while before that happens. When Wilt played, they averaged like 130 possessions per game, and we're at like 95 or 100 right now. So,
well, we're going to start getting up to it. We're going to get past that by the rate the defense is going downhill. Which it is just it's just, you know, we're going to get to that point. You just watch. Next few years or so, I'm not saying this year or next year, but next few years or so, we're going to see those possessions go up, and we're going to start having 300-point games, baby.
I was going to say, interesting fact with the whole Wilt thing, when he averaged 50 a game, he accounted for about 40% of his team points. And when Kobe and Michael had their highest scoring seasons, they accounted for about 42 and 43% of their team's points. So
that's what happens when you have Scottie Pippen and Derek Fisher on your team. You have to share the ball too, and also Kobe had Shaq. Imagine if he didn't have Shaq. Because Kobe had Shaq to deal with. I mean, regardless of how that relationship turned out, he still had Shaq's this big dominant force of being. This was back when post play was big. He had to throw the ball on the inside for Shaq to slam it down their throats.
Agreed.
But yeah, they just couldn't, you know, again, it just, you know, with the Bucks, I mean, as far as Cream City goes, it's got to be the dumbest. It's why the NBA has just become so unwatchable. Stuff like that.
I agree. Well, let's take a minute to do station identification here. If you want to listen to this show, you can hear it on iHeartRadio, Apple, Google, or wherever you get your podcast. Please subscribe to South Florida Tribune's YouTube channel. Go to YouTube, South Florida Tribune. You can catch our website at www.southfloridatribune.com. If you have any show ideas or anything like that, you can always email us at southfloridatribune@gmail.com. Our Twitter handle is @TribuneSouth. And Eric, what's up next?
Well, what's up next is right now what is you know, the Packers had that big win against the Dallas Cowboys this past weekend. And the question is, obviously you end a 5-game losing streak, which was a first for Aaron Rodgers in a really long time. I think the first one since he first became the starter after Brett Favre was traded to the New York Jets. With Sunday's win, will the Packers be able to turn their season around? I mean, yes, it's an uphill battle because they got a lot of ground to make up, and they're going to need some help along the way. But ladies and gentlemen, let's take a look at their schedule, their upcoming schedule. They play the Titans next week. Ryan Tannehill's just coming back. They play the Philadelphia Eagles, who are 8-1. They lost to Washington last night, but But still, the Eagles are still having a great year. They play the Bears, who Justin Fields has been really hot as of late. They play the Rams, and the Rams are just a broken team right now. They play the Dolphins, in Miami, and the Dolphins at home. Oh man, the Dolphins are just in an offensive explosion right now. Then they play the first place Vikings, which I really believe the Vikings are for real. And then they play, and then the last game of the year, which is going to be the last house divided game for the season. They play the Detroit Lions in Lambeau Field, a place where the Lions don't win at Lambeau Field. They just don't. They never win. They never win there.
They don't win, period.
Well, they won last weekend, and they've at least been. They've been in some competitive ball games. They're at least competitive now. So my friends, can the Packers turn their season around?
I'm gonna say no. I think it's too far. I think the Vikings right now are red hot. They're the hottest team nobody's talking about. And the Packers played their best game of the year. Aaron Rodgers, 14 for 20, 224 yards, 3 touchdowns. They had balance for the first time. Aaron Jones, 24, 138 yards. And Christian Watson, where have you been? You showed up. 107 receiving yards with 3 touchdowns. That's why the Packers won, because they had balance. It wasn't all on Aaron Rodgers' shoulders. They had running, they had receiving. But the Vikings right now are red hot. And I just think that it's just they're not gonna catch them. And that schedule they have, it's kind of rough. That's a kind of a rough schedule, except for the Rams and Lions. All the rest, Dolphins are good, and the Vikings, they're the hottest team in the NFL. Nobody's talking about. So I'm gonna say no.
I say a wild card spot is very slightly possible, but I'm gonna go with no as well. That schedule is too daunting. And I know we finally, after we've all been asking for it, ran the ball on Sunday and actually won a game. They still haven't shown that they're going to continue to do that. So who's to say next on Thursday night, Aaron Rodgers isn't going to all of a sudden go, hey, I need my 40 passes, boys. So I don't think so. I think the schedule's just too tough. And I think if we wanted to make the playoffs, then we just couldn't lose to the Giants, Jets, Commanders during that little home stretch that we had on the Lions. So we needed to win those games, and we didn't. So now I don't think we make the playoffs, but I am happy that we finally cut Amari Rodgers.
Well, I'd say I don't think they will. I think it's just a little too late. I mean, the Cowboys win is definitely a good win to feel about. But number one, the Niners are just getting healthy. And they got the final playoff spot right now, which is logically where the Packers would probably be, or at least pretty close to that. Because the Niners, they got Christian McCaffrey now, who's a complete cheat code in more ways than Marshall Faulk ever was. But and then the Giants are a great story this year, as well as the Giants are a great story this year as well. I just think it's just too little, too late. Aaron Rodgers is not your guy that can go out there and be Superman anymore. He's older. He's 38. He's at the point in his career now where he can't be that guy who can just airlift teams like he used to. I mean, Christian Watson. I mean, you're no longer called Christian Dropson. And considering how many balls he was dropping days and day out, but you've shown what you've been able to flash. And then, Amari Rodgers has more fumbles than he does have catches. I think that, number one, the front office kind of set this up to fail. They knew they needed wide receivers, and they didn't. And, obviously, they thought they could do second round and late round receivers, which most of the time that never works out because these guys just don't have the skill set that in the NFL when they're playing against smaller schools where you can be the best on the field there. But man, the NFL, these guys come from Alabama, Georgia, wherever. They're just significantly better talent-wise. You need talent that can equal that, and right now the Packers don't have that in the receiving corps. For right now, I just think it's just too late for them to really make a run. They could very well finish like 500, but I don't think it'll be enough to make the playoffs. And even if they do go to the playoffs, they somehow get a wild card spot. There's a division winner there that's just waiting to send Aaron Rodgers to a retirement home.
First of all, your question was, can they salvage their season? Yes, they can salvage their season. What does success mean to the Green Bay Packers? We've seen them in the playoffs for how many years consecutively? So is that the standard that we're setting, that they have to be in the playoffs for it to be successful? Aaron Rodgers, yes, he cannot do it himself. My husband will tell you, and he has told me numerous times, as we are a house divided, but he's also an analyst and said, part of the reason we are where we are is with Devontae leaving and so many rookie wide receivers. Aaron Rodgers had to be at training camp. He had to be at all those practices because he's a great quarterback. He can throw the ball, but he has to gel with our receivers. Him and Christian got it together this week. They were gelling together. I mean, let's face it, Watson, he also dropped a couple before he caught the touchdown pass.
Did.
Can they make the playoffs? I think it's possible. I don't know if it's real probable, but I think it is possible. And I think because you never know, any given team can beat any given team. Let's face it. Who would have thought the Eagles would have lost yesterday?
Yep.
Nobody would have predicted that. That's why they play the game. So do I think they can do it? I think they can if they can keep one of the things they're projected to get Randall Cobb back to this week to play against the Titans. Everyone's not going to give him a chance. I think playing from the underdog role like that gives them an edge. I also think, yes, Randall Cobb may not be the answer, but he's also a weapon out there to divert attention and to divert some of these defensive safeties in them. So do I think they can do it? I think they can. I think they need to keep the camaraderie, though. I don't think we need to be calling anybody out. Let's not say, oh, this person dropped this or this person's not, playing up to standards, because I think that's dividing them. So I think them being quiet more about that would help. And can I hope? I'll be honest with you, on Thursday night's Inside the Pigskin from last week, I was one of the only ones that predicted them to beat the Cowboys. So yes, I'm gonna hold faith. I have my faith that they can do it.
I definitely hope they can. That's for sure. I always hope they can at least sneak into if we can sneak into the playoffs and go on a surprise run, that'd be nice. But I think what might benefit I think a big benefit with us against a team like the Eagles is they don't have a strong run defense. So I think that's going to be the biggest key. Will we stay committed to the run? Because I think Aaron Jones and A.J. Dillon, they need to run the ball at least 30 to 35 times in order to give us a chance.
I agree.
They have to, like I said, that was the best game they played last Sunday. They looked good. Aaron looked good. They ran, they received, and I agree with Scott. I mean, Aaron Rodgers is just a diva, and he's all about himself. And maybe if he showed some being a good teammate and gelling there, I think they would be a lot better. So I blame not only not drafting well, but I also blame Aaron Rodgers for. I'm going to retire. I'm coming back. No, I want to get traded. Just too much drama.
I mean, there's a reason. I mean, there's plenty of blame to go around. It's not just one guy. I mean, yes, Gutekunst is ultimately responsible for putting this team together, and he should have drafted a receiver in the first round for a couple of years now and didn't. But number one, I kind of blame Aaron because number one, had Aaron stayed and said, "Yeah, I'm coming back," he might have had Devontae back. Devontae didn't want to play with anybody else but Aaron Rodgers in Green Bay. He made that obvious. As cryptically as he tried to make it, it was obvious. He would have had him back, but the fact that Aaron Rodgers was on the fence, it cost him Devontae. So I can't put that one on the front office because Aaron Rodgers kind of shot himself in the foot there. But, at the same time, though, Gutekunst, yes, he's ultimately responsible for putting the team together, but that team needed receivers like a hole in the wall. Randall Cobb is past his prime. He's barely even a serviceable receiver at this point. And Alan Lazard is not a number one or a number two. The fact of the matter is the guy can barely get on the field. But, the fact that the Packers needed help or needed to get an early round pick or a free agent to come in there and be a and be a spot for Aaron Rodgers, basically give him some comfortability. And he didn't do it. He thought he could win with what he had, and there was just no experience there. I mean, Robert Tonyan, great story though, but he's not going to be the guy to get it done. He's just not that guy. And then also with Rodgers, you knew you had a new receiving corps coming in because Devontae left by your own doing, by the way. By your own doing. You made that, you were partially responsible for him leaving for Las Vegas. That was you, because you couldn't make up your mind on what you wanted to do. And so Devontae made up his, saying, I'm going to try and play close to home, because he was unsure what you wanted to do, because he didn't want to – I think really he didn't want to play with Jordan Love, because Jordan Love can't throw the ball down the field. And, so he left for a guy who is going to be there. And Derek Carr is there. You put that one on yourself. Don't get in Gutekunst's face. Yeah, Gutekunst is responsible for the mess too, but you're equally responsible. And also, you knew you had new receiving corps. You know, as a quarterback, it takes a while, and it takes a lot more than training camp and the preseason to gel with these guys. You at least have to start that chemistry and get it going and find the guy you're comfortable with. And you didn't do it. You decided to pull your card. You pull your I'm Aaron Rodgers card and not participate.
Too busy wanting to be the host of Jeopardy and trying to look like Nick Cage.
That was actually really entertaining though on Jeopardy. You have to give him that.
Yeah.
But it was but the thing is, you had you knew that this was going to be a new season. You knew it was going to be different than any other season you've been in. You didn't have the same receivers like you did the year prior, but you decide to just do other things. And look, now you're having to develop that. Now that chemistry hasn't been able to come together, and you're averaging a $150 passing yards a game, despite being the reigning MVP. Last I looked, that might have gotten you an MVP in the 60s, but it's not going to get you that now. But the fact of the matter is, Aaron, you had opportunities to really put it together in the preseason. Brian Gutekunst, you knew you needed receivers to help, at least the very least, help Devontae Adams instead of having him catch 140 balls a season. And you didn't get it done. There's a reason that you haven't been able to go to the Super Bowl again. There's a reason too that the Packers have only won between Brett and Aaron 2 rings in 26 years. It's stuff like that, and it's a reason why I don't think Green Bay will go to a Super Bowl again with Aaron Rodgers.
You mentioned Devontae Adams, and I just thought it would be a funny note. I find it wild the fact that Jeff Saturday already almost has as many wins as Josh McDaniels does this year.
Well, keep in mind though, Mark Davis decided to get high off the New England Patriots drug and bring in Josh McDaniels, who was a failed head coach once before in Denver. We all saw how that turned out.
Yep.
And then decided to go back to the Bill Belichick meth lab, get high again to make himself a supposed NFL head coaching candidate. You saw him completely jilt Indianapolis at the altar, where coaches that were coming for him, some of them were left without a job. But you go ahead and hire the guy anyway. And Mark Davis, I don't know why Mark Davis decided to do the New England Patriot drug, but he did. But yes, and also Jeff Saturday, it's still too early. It's still too early to tell. I really can see it, 1 game high, yeah, but I can really see the inexperience blowing up in Jim Irsay's face.
Oh, absolutely. With Saturday, at least he's only an intern, so worst case scenario, he sucks. So well, let him go at the end of the year.
Well, here's where I do blame Jeff Saturday, though, is I blame him for he had been offered jobs in the past by the Colts, including the offensive line job at one point. And he declined, turned it down for whatever reason, thinking like, okay, I have no interest in coaching. But then he decided to take the head coaching job. Had he been the offensive line coach, the answer would have been a lot more justifiable for him to be a head coach. But Joe Thomas, as Joe Thomas said, that's a slap in the face to every single coach in the National Football League.
And Cowher too. Cowher came out too and blasted the move too, which you don't hear Bill Cowher going on and do criticism, but even he blasted the move.
He's very careful when he criticizes. I've seen him I saw him rip into Rex Ryan years ago when Rex Ryan tried to guarantee a Super Bowl.
Well,
But
I think who didn't rip Rex Ryan for his stupidity on that?
which, that was toward the end of his tenure there. But again, it was a slap in the face. Had he been the offensive line coach or taken any other job with the team, the answer at least would have been okay, and it would have been justifiable for having him go in there and try and finish the year. But they were 3-3 at the time when Frank Reich was fired. So they at least still had a fighting chance to make something happen. They were playing 500 ball, and what? You're not going to give the guy an opportunity to try and turn it around and compete? Then maybe mid-year when they're at the playoffs, okay, fine, fire him. If you
I
know
think the
that's what
one
you're
who should be upset would be Gus Bradley. I thought when they fired Reich, like, oh, they'll put Gus Bradley in, and he was a head coach. And when he goes, who? I just saw him on ESPN like 5 minutes ago. He's the new head coach. If I was Gus Bradley, I'd be pretty PO'd right now, to be quite honest.
If I was Gus Bradley, I would quit.
Yeah, I would be. I would. That you talk about a slap in the face is a Gus Bradley. My goodness, you're gonna hire. I'm like, okay, you're gonna get somebody else. Get somebody else that's on the staff. That's a dude that was doing. I just saw him on ESPN 5 minutes ago.
Gus Bradley's been a head coach before.
Yeah.
Not a good one, but he at least knows what goes into the job, and he knows what happens to what you need to do in order to be ready to play. He knows how. He at least knows the job. Unlike you bring Jeff Saturday, who wasn't really expecting to get the job. You know what? You might as. I bet you. It wouldn't shock me if Jeff Saturday had a cup of coffee with Sean McVay at one point.
Yeah.
I don't know. It was to me it was wrong. If he was the offensive line coach and they decide to go in that direction, I understand. Jeff Saturday is a great center, probably one of the greatest centers of all time. But he'll no doubt, I think he's a Hall of Famer. But number one, a head coach, had he taken any other role in the organization, I'd understand. But just sitting at home every Sunday like the rest of America watching football, no.
Yeah.
He could have made it. They could have made it easier by naming Gus Bradley, and then we'll get through the season, find somebody else. But I feel more bad for Frank Reich though, because his team was 3-3, and the fact that he was forced to put in Sam Ehlinger, who looked completely lost out there. But and things like that, and having to bench Matt Ryan just because they didn't want to pay him. I just think that again, it's the reason why with Jim Irsay, it's the reason why they haven't gone back to the Super Bowl.
Yeah, I think what the Colts' biggest issue is them just continuing to plug in a new veteran quarterback every year, expecting them to learn the whole playbook and everything. And when the offense doesn't click in 1 year, all right, move on from him, bring in Carson Wentz. Bring in Phillip Rivers, bring in Jacoby Brissett, bring in Matt Ryan. What's next? Matt Ryan doesn't work out. All right, guys, time for a Derek Carr trade.
Jacoby Brissett. Okay, the Colts were kind of forced into that situation because Andrew Luck decided to wait till the very last moment to retire. They were kind of. Let me finish. They were ready to. They were forced into that situation. They needed a QB who knew the system, and it was so late in the training camp. And they had played a preseason game that it was too late to get anybody else who would be able to learn it quickly. So Brissett, who had been in the system a while, they had to play him. And then Carson Wentz, the guy can't lead. There's a reason Washington is winning more games now with Taylor Heineke than they are Carson Wentz. Have you noticed that? There's a different vibe with that football team. It's because Carson Wentz can't lead. He is not a leader of man.
Yeah, I was going to say, I don't blame him for the Jacoby Brissett thing at all, but every quarterback after that, like Phillip Rivers at least got them to the playoffs, but if you want to build something long-term, you need to find somebody and just kind of let them gel with the offense and get some consistency going at the most important position.
You need the consistency there, and number one, the Colts just think that, we have a Super Bowl winning defense, and a defense that could win a Super Bowl, which I do agree, and we have a solid running game with Jonathan Taylor, and we also have a pretty good receiving corps that all we need is a veteran quarterback. Number one, it takes a while to learn the playbook. you might want to find, if you're going veteran QB, you might want to find a QB who's been in the system and preferably a leader of man. Carson Wentz is not a leader of man. The guy lost the locker room toward the end of his time in Philadelphia. He lost it with the Colts, and he's losing it with Washington.
Agree.
But yeah, I can tell you though. I mean, yeah, the injury plays a role, but man, it doesn't help that Carson Wentz hasn't gone back to the basics of what made him successful early on in Philadelphia. I mean, I personally hold him responsible for what happened to Doug Peterson in Philadelphia, because now Peterson seems like he's has Jacksonville going in the right direction, and Trevor Lawrence is actually looking like a pro quarterback.
I agree.
But Reich will land on his feet. I think Reich will. I think he'll go back to either being a coordinator or a QB coach, and he'll show his brilliance. I think he'll land on his feet. He took the Colts to the playoffs, and I think he managed the situation well.
Okay, with that, are we ready for parting shots?
Yeah.
Yeah. I decided to mix it up from the Packers this time. My parting shot is to the actually Milwaukee Bucks fan base. I get that Beauchamp has looked good the last two games, but let's slow down. I saw this post earlier that it was like in a Bucks fan page that they're asking for Beauchamp player comparisons. I was seeing names like LeBron James, Jason Tatum, Jimmy Butler. Let's slow down. Let's not heap all this extra unnecessary expectations on this kid. He's only 19. Let's let him develop. I think he's already showing that he can be at least a solid 3-and-D role player. If he develops more, great, but let's not heap any unnecessary burdens onto him.
Okay, Rick, your parting shot.
Well, my parting shot is sort of a somber parting shot. It's on Devin Chandler. Devin Chandler played for Wisconsin Badgers football team, 2020 to 2021. He transferred to UVA, and unfortunately, he was one of the 4 people that were murdered in this senseless mass shooting that we've been having so much of in our country. It's just another statistic of a young, promising man. I hate to say wrong place at the wrong time, I guess. I don't know. But my dedication to Devin Chandler and his family, and it's just sad. And I know Jim Leonard came out with a statement saying the same thing as well. So somber party shot, but this is a memory for Devin Chandler.
Eric, your parting shot.
I mean, for the Packers, Brian Gutekunst, this is on you. Aaron Rodgers, this is on you. You both made this mess. Fix it.
Okay. I actually have more than one parting shot. Sorry, guys. My first parting shot is this sad. Darrell Brooks, your trial is going on, or your trial is done. Your sentencing is going on right now. I'm so glad that they're letting the victims speak up and talk to the court and tell everybody their side of what happened. You drove into a Christmas parade. I cannot fathom that. That's just pure evil, to try to injure people when they are celebrating at a Christmas parade. That just is so sad. I say that this is the 7th year anniversary of my mom's passing. She passed away today, 7 years ago. She was everything to me. She was my hero. I miss her every day. On another note, besides her, I also want to say kudos to the Green Bay Packers. Thursday night, you will be honoring one of my favorites to watch play the game, Leroy Butler.
Safety.
He's going to get his name etched in the ring, and he's going to be there. He is the reason he is who started the Lambeau Leap.
Yep.
Thank you, Leroy, for being a Packer and being a great inspiration. I mean, he's even bought some of the cousin franchise subs up there, some of the franchise stores. So he's invested in Wisconsin. He loves Wisconsin. You're again what was right with sports.
He's still here too.
He is. He is. He recently just bought into the Cousins franchise and bought a couple of stores up there.
He also does advertisements for Pick and Save. He's
Yep.
still here. Which it's long overdue that he got in the Hall of Fame and the ring and the Packers jersey circle.
Right. He's getting his name etched, and there'll be a ceremony on Thursday night. So
yeah, he was a really good safety for a while.
He was. Okay, so let's everyone go around and say how they can get a hold of you. Rick, why don't you start us off?
You can go on my website, www.charlottebats.com. Go on there, sign a petition. We're trying to bring Major League Baseball to Charlotte, North Carolina. I'm on Facebook as well, on Charlotte MLB. I'm also on there, Charlotte Bats Baseball. I'm on Twitter, Charlotte Bats Baseball. I'm on Instagram at Charlotte Bats. And I'm also on LinkedIn under Rick Curdy. And if you have any comments or questions, you can email me at cltbatsbaseball@gmail.com.
Brett, how can we get a hold of you?
You can get a hold of me on Facebook and Twitter. Both of them are just right at Brett Gardapi. I also have a podcast, Gardy 3. It's on Spotify and Anchor. That also has a Facebook page if you want to give me some criticism or things you want to hear in future episodes. So that's how you can get a hold of me.
Eric, how can we get a hold of you?
You can follow me on Twitter at Sports Team News, or you can follow my blog at bellyupsports.com, where I talk all things baseball.
And you are listening to us on the South Florida Tribune's YouTube channel. If you have not subscribed yet, why not? I don't understand why not. Subscribe. Hit that subscribe button. Go to our website, www.southfloridatribune.com. You can email us ideas at southfloridatribune@gmail.com. Our Twitter handle is @TribuneSouth. And you can hear this show if you can't watch us, you're driving home and you want to listen to us on iHeartRadio, Google, Apple, or wherever you get your podcasts. Well, for Eric Katz, great job tonight. Rick Curdy, you did great. And Brett, you also did great. Thanks, everyone, for listening and joining us. We appreciate you watching us. And until the next time, go Packers, go Brewers, go Bucks, go Badgers.